We are live.
You're hesitating, Margaret.
She's frozen. Oh,
You're frozen.
it is a cold day.
Emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. This public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing YouTube live stream for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone: 603-236-4730, or by clicking on the following website address: www.watervillevalley.org. We are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or instructions from the website of the We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-236-4730 or email at townofwv, that's TOWNOFWV @watervillevalley.org. We would also adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Margaret Turner, I'm alone in this meeting right now. Mike?
Mike Aronson, alone.
Rich Rita, alone except for a couple of four-legged beasts roaming around.
Yeah, mentioned mine travel in and out occasionally too. Okay, let's go to our agenda. So we've had our call to order. Any privilege of the floor number one?
We did not
We're gonna
have.
hold that off until after the coronavirus update.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do the coronavirus update, and then we will we'll get to the information on the chapel if we have Bertie with us. If not, we'll just continue down the agenda until we see her.
Okay.
So coronavirus update, please.
Chris.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to keep this very brief. Our stay-home order is tentatively due to expire on May 4th. Hear probably an update on that later this week or early next week from the governor. That's what he said. Hopefully everything will be fine, but you know, we'll know more by the end of the week. Thank you again to the community, staff, everybody. We're all doing what we should be doing, what our guidelines are. If you have any questions, you can give us a call. Right now we're pretty much at a flat plateau, so there's no surge yet, and hopefully we will not see one. Other than that, if you have any questions, you can call in, and I'll turn it over back to Margaret.
Still muted, Margaret.
Public Works, do you have anything to add, Jim?
No, we're just taking it day by day, and we're still working the split shifts, so.
Okay, everybody's healthy.
Yeah, everybody's healthy to the best of my knowledge at this point in time.
Yep, as much as we can know, right?
That's correct.
Margaret, one more thing from Chris.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that, public safety, we're still doing our normal business. We haven't stopped patrolling. We haven't stopped answering calls. We're still business as usual at public safety. So we are on patrol. We got a couple calls last week about people concerned that we weren't out there. People far away wondering if their houses were safe. But we're business as usual. We're not using as many staff to,
Frozen.
we're not using as many staff to, reduce our risk of cross-contaminating each other, but we are business as usual here. So no need to worry about calls not getting answered or anything like that.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Margaret, I'd also like to point out that the post office is still probably the busiest place in town. It's still the place that is being visited the most regularly. We are open there from 8:30 in the morning until noon most days, except for Saturdays when it's 11:30. So just ask people when they're using the post office to try to minimize their trips there each week and to be considerate of others. We're trying to limit the number of people in the post office at any one time to 2 people at a time, and to just have everybody else wait outside at proper social distancing, 6 feet apart, and just help each other out in that way.
Okay, I think it's 11 on Saturday, Mark.
11, yes. Geez, I always get that wrong. I'm sorry. 11, yes.
Brooke, recreation.
Yeah, so for an update for us, we are working to figuring out sort of alternative plans for this summer, depending on the information that we hear from the governor. We feel like we can really make something happen for the summer. We're taking camp registrations. We have more camp registrations right now than we did last year at this time. A lot of people are registering for camps. I think there is a lot of demand there, and hopefully we can deliver it in some capacity. But again, we're waiting to hear the guidance from the state on how we can proceed with that.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Rick, are you guys taking deposits with registrations?
Registrations are only made with full payment.
Okay, so in your revenue numbers that we're seeing now, has that revenue been posted yet, or are you waiting till camps open to post?
The revenue that you see on the financial report that was up to date, because many of these registrations have come in the last 4 or 5 days. I don't think that it's updated. I looked at what it said yesterday, and I don't think it is. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, but enough, what I'd like, if possible, for maybe the next meeting.
Judy and I talked about that yesterday afternoon, and she has not had a chance to post the deposits yet.
So there are no deposits in that revenue number?
Very few, if any.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
There should be some camp. There should be some of that should be camp money, but I think that there's a large number missing because of the deposits are a little delayed. As I
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
We're also just so everyone knows, we're working on a lot of really great alternatives, not just for camp and how we have to run camp if we get this, these restrictions. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of our programs, aside from camp, and how we're really getting creative and we have some great ideas about how we can do that with social distancing if that is still in place. So excited to do something this summer.
Anybody else having trouble hearing?
No, I'm good.
Okay, it's just me then. Okay, you said, so,
No change,
we don't have anything there, right?
no change, that's correct.
Tom, do you want to continue?
On this,
Okay.
geotechnical engineering,
Okay,
Mark is, I mean, the two of us are in the loop, but Bertie seems, I think, a little more knowledgeable on this. Mark, would you agree on that?
Yes, Tom, do you want to call her? Do you want me to go and call her and make sure that she's not having any problems connecting?
I'll give her a buzz.
Okay, we'll do the rest of the agenda.
Okay, can I just add one thing? I forgot to mention that, we are still planning for the community cleanup on May 15th, and we will have to make some changes, to kind of our plan for that, but I think we can still do it. So we are still planning for our community cleanup on May 15th.
okay, and I will be here because I won't be cruising. Let's go to our minutes. Can we look at the minutes of April 8th?
So I have a number of very, very minor changes. I can contact Sharon later, as I did last time.
On line
That-
258, anybody has any?
What?
She's gonna jump on.
I think Margaret is frozen. Oh, there you are. You're back, Margaret.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying that I have a number of changes. I could just send in an email to Sharon like last time. I did have one substantive issue or question though, on line 217.
Of which set?
Which set?
Oh, that was the 8th, I think. That's what they
Are
were.
we doing the 8th?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, we're doing the 8th.
Okay, I believe it's line 217. Let me just dig it up here. That was a long minutes.
All right, I have one on 121, if you don't mind, I could get to while you're looking for yours, Rich.
Sure, sure.
In 120, the first alert that went out by social media to property owners about sheltering in place. And I think we touched on it in the meeting, but we didn't clarify that that first alert was written by the town manager, not the Board of Selectmen. Mark, you with me on that?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I think we need the minutes to note that that was written by the town manager with public safety, not the Board of Selectmen. And have that incorporated in the minutes, please.
Can add that between notice and regarding, public notice from the town manager regarding second.
I think a little bit stronger than from the town manager. How about a message was created? Hello? Kind of like a message was created by the town manager.
Okay,
It's written.
You next. It looks like you got your hair.
I did, I cut it off myself. It's kind of a mess.
Okay, so that was you, Mike. What else?
Yeah.
What else? Anybody, any others?
I just have the same kind of little grammar and things Rich probably has.
Yeah, I'll just get together with Sharon via email. On on 217, I was just a little confused. Not an unusual situation, so, with the word, the other projects, other, with regard to what? You have to go back to the previous sentence. Am I missing something, or do we just need to clarify it or take out other?
I think if you add a D to and make it included, it makes the sentence work, Rich.
Well, that was one of the things I was wondering if it was just a
Yeah.
simple, the other project included,
Yes.
are the road work.
yes, just add a D, just add,
Additional?
no, just add a D to the word include.
Mhm.
Okay. That works for me. I was just a little confused as to what include meant there in the context. That's it for that one for me, except for
On line
minor
258,
stuff.
I think the project is on hold, not on a hold.
Yeah, I've got on that as old. That's one of my grammar ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But, okay, but the rest of them are okay, and we're gonna, can I have a motion to move the,
I move, so move.
Rich,
I
you have
will-
this thing,
Oh, and this is Rich, I so move.
all right?
Is Mike, I so second?
All in favor?
Aye,
Mike, aye.
Rich?
aye, this is Rich saying aye.
April 15th minutes, I had a few on there.
I'll put any minor changes, non-substantive changes, email to Sharon. I just had one.
I have one substantive change. To addition, in the paragraph that talks about no on-street parking in the valley and reminders violated would be ticketed. I think we need to add to the minutes that some of our roads are state roads and we have no authority to ticket or tow from there, if that's correct. Chris, is that correct?
Yes.
So you can
This is
ticket.
our ordinance.
Okay, because I thought you couldn't ticket up on the access road and places like that.
Yes, we can.
Okay, then I was wrong. Sorry about that, folks.
Okay, thanks, Chris, for the
And
clarification.
that's because of our town ordinance.
So even though it's a state road, because it's in Waterville Valley, we can ticket on it,
Correct,
just as we can ticket on 49.
correct.
Okay,
The one substantive issue I had was on line 113.
I'm before that, I have,
Oh, go ahead then.
line 39. Two times. Ascent, A-S-C-E-N-T.
yes. Got that.
Okay,
Mhm.
and line 74. Public safety does not know who the positive cases are,
Yes.
not whom.
Yeah, I had that as well. That's,
Not substantive, it's just grammar.
Okay, so the one substantive thing I have was on line 113. I got these sunglasses, please, dear. You're spooking me up behind me. 113,
Oh, she's not.
yeah, it's a problem, my old business, but someone behind me. 113, Mike asked if the heating system of the WTV could be included as well. Wasn't there a short discussion about including, was it possible to include some of the
Ice
items that need repair in the ice arena?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
So if we can just add a sentence there.
Yep.
Does that work? Yeah, just along the lines of what I said. Otherwise, I'll put everything else in an email.
Okay,
Okay,
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the 15th as amended.
is that you, Mike?
That's Mike, sorry.
Rich seconds that motion?
Amy.
Myron, you frozen again?
I,
Oh, aye, Mike.
Oh, and Rich is aye.
Yeah, I think you froze when you were making your motion, Margaret.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to go back to my bedroom. This just isn't working out so well.
Perhaps if you turned off the video and just had the audio stream, and maybe that may help it, have less throughput.
Yeah, we might. Let's try that. Okay, let's, I don't know where Birdie went. I think she's nearby. Can we talk a little bit, just moving down the agenda so that the chapel committee can make, oh, there she is. So the chapel committee can, give us an update and, we can talk about what they need to do as far as the town is concerned. So Birdie, why don't you take it away?
Okay, yeah, I think Mark received the, engineer's, probing proposal with the budget, how much it would be, which was about $7,000 to do the site.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that, okay, go ahead.
anyway, so we've gone ahead, I sent Mark the plans and where we wanted the building more or less on the site, and then the engineer's cost for doing the probe for the soil. And then I spoke with Mark, and it seemed to me that if we went ahead with this probe, and Mark was saying that you were going to do the beach pavilion, that perhaps we could do both together rather than each separate. And that's sort of where we are at this point.
Well,
I know if all the have you all looked at the
No.
basic?
no, okay, so Bertie,
Oh,
when you and I talked, we were just closing with the engineer on the contract for the work. The selectmen had just, I think you and I talked maybe last Thursday about this, Thursday or
Yeah.
Friday. So the selectmen last Wednesday, we had made the final decision. We were moving forward with the contract. And with our town engineer, we have not done any design work or anything. We had just gotten the contract finalized. So we don't have plans for the pavilion or the trails or anything like that at this point in time.
okay.
The plans that you provided to me, well, the presentation information that you provided to me was how you arrived, the chapel committee arrived at getting that estimate for the $7,000 in work, right?
Right.
The $7,000 in work, though, is for geotech engineering, as if that site was the actual site and where the
Proposed at the town meeting way back last March. The building was going to go when you and I had met a year ago, Mark. When I presented my plan to the town,
yeah.
Originally, that little red dot was where more or less we wanted the building. Then we went back with the architect and again decided, yes, that was more or less where we wanted to place the building. So as a result of that, then we had Horizons come and do the survey for the whole lot, which you said we needed to do. And then we were to decide more or less, so we had the architect, Eric Barth, come in, take a look at the site. Said, we told him this is more or less where we would like the chapel.
Okay.
Not necessarily written in stone, but that's more or less where we thought would be the best
Right.
at that spring meeting.
It was March of 18 or March of 19 when you did that, yes.
Yeah,
And so, but before, if you spend this $7,000
yes,
and you get the additional design work completed, because what town meeting approved in 2019 was not a plan, was not an actual, this is what the parcel of land needs to look like. It was generally, here's where conceptually we're going to put we could put the chapel, but it was not voted by the town meeting that was the definitive site. My concern was before you invested the $7,000 in doing that work, that all of the presentation, the more detailed description and the pictures of what the chapel might look like needs to go back to town meeting. Again, for this is the site where we want to put it. Here's whether we're going to do that by an easement or whether we're going to grant the land from the town to some organization. Who's going to be responsible for maintenance and all of that sort of stuff. We don't have any of that detail yet. And I wanted to make sure with the selection that we were looking for the right information before you made the investment of the $7,000.
Okay, yeah, I guess maybe I didn't completely understand that, but, because I thought with you, Mark, you had said, yes, go ahead with the overall survey of that lot with the horizons, correct?
Well, yeah, all Horizons did was identify on the ground where the lot lines were around that area where the red dot, the red star was that we showed town meeting, right? They actually identified it on the ground so that the architect could then look at it and say, okay, here's the area that we have to work with. And they did not survey that entire lot because that lot goes all the way around the pond. They didn't do that entire area. They did the lot lines right there by the beach, which we needed to do. And you're absolutely right. That's what I said. And now the flags are on the ground around that area, around the beach.
March before we do anything. I guess my only feeling was that, I mean, say they do the borings and it turns out that that's not a place that we can build. It turns out that the earth isn't right or whatever.
Well, am I missing, from the Board of Selectmen standpoint, am I missing something? Am I saying the wrong thing here? Or is that what you're expecting to have to do, go back in March of 2021?
My understanding is that because this involves a use of town property, we have to have a properly defined warrant article that people vote on before we can do anything with this project. So what we did back in
You're freezing again.
Yeah, that's over. Because town properly supported. Okay?
I missed what you said, Margaret.
You froze during most of that.
You froze, Margaret.
Ah. Stopping the video again. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My understanding was that what we did in 2019 was a sense of the meeting vote. In other words, after we had the regular business of meeting, we had people say, yes, we think that's a great idea to have a chapel. And what we need to do in order to use town land or to grant town land, however it comes out, is that we have to have those terms defined and we have to put it before town meeting as a warrant article.
So that would not go as a warrant article until 2022.
21.
21.
So, you know, we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because we want to, you know, move along as quickly as we can. And this geotech engineering is very important for us to determine whether or not that land that we propose to the town is suitable to be, have the chapel built on. I think that's where we are. And I guess maybe you could say, hey, it's your $7 grand to go find out. You lose it, you lose it. But if it's suitable, then we're a step ahead and we can, move to the warrant article in 2021. So would it be voted on in 2021? And we could actually start building in the spring of 2021? Is that the timeline that you guys see?
If you have all the ducks in line, one of the things that is coming up that's kind of makes a lot of sense now is we've hired this engineering firm to engineer the path around the pond and where the bathhouse is going to go and everything else. So when we see that, we'll know where our projects are going to fall around the pond, and to see if where you want chapel is still the appropriate place for it.
I mean, obviously, it'd be great to piggyback on you, but you guys don't know when you're gonna do that, right?
No, it's not a piggyback issue. These people who are coming in are planning to revamp and rebuild the paths around there and the bathhouse to where to lay that out. Once we get their idea, we're not gonna commit to their idea immediately. We're gonna see it. And I'm sure we're gonna share it with you guys because it's gonna be a partnership. Hearing and design for the paths around the pond come up, then I think if you want to invest in that $7,000, it's a good investment because you know that land is going to be available. It's not going to be used in part of our plan.
Well, just a scenario that could possibly happen, say you also do your, and it turns out we could not build where we think, then, that might be a possibility, but,
I don't know if we're going to do borings for the pavilion.
oh, you're not? Okay.
Because the pavilion is set back. Where I'm not a builder, I don't know, but it's something that I hadn't thought about.
Mark,
Yes,
did we do borings for the pavilion?
I don't know yet. I mean,
Okay.
I think it'll be determined by where Josh recommends that we cite it.
Okay,
I think that the initial work that Josh is going to complete has to be done before the end of May, because it has to be, at least in conceptual terms, has to be put together for the Northern Borders grant, right? So we're going to have, in very broad brush terms, roughly where the bathhouse pavilion facilities are gonna be proposed to go. We're not gonna have final engineering until we get a decision on the Northern Borders grant, which will be done, I believe in September. So we would be doing final design work probably in the fall, in order to go to town meeting with numbers, for the grant, next March. So this will all dovetail together. I think the question is gonna be for the chapel committee, whether or not they want to invest the $7,000 right now and do the borings, because there's no sense in them proposing a site to town meeting if the site ends up not being a buildable site. But it's also their money, so they need to make that choice as to whether or not they want to invest it. I don't think there's any problem with them doing the borings and at least finding out if that's a buildable lot, if that's where they want to locate the chapel.
okay.
I
And
think that
then-
makes the most sense.
Yeah,
I mean, we can't present a site without it being a suitable site.
right.
So we have to, Bertie and our committee, we gotta decide whether or not we wanna invest the 7,000, which I think we would, no.
Where did you get the $7,000 estimate from, by the way?
It came from McFall Associates.
Mark has their.
It's a geotech firm, Margaret,
Oh, okay.
that has that specializes in doing getting the kind of information that they need on
Okay,
the borings.
so Mark, the one thing though is I think you did say that you thought that it would be good, for us to work together in terms of design, aspect. You thought maybe the building could be sort of in keeping with whatever we were doing?
You gave to me to make sure that that level of design work for this Northern Borders application. We're gonna be looking at for it. It's not final design the way you guys have gotten pretty detailed architectural sketches and everything else for the chapel. But I have shared it with him so that as he's going along and putting the conceptual work together, that we at least know what you guys are thinking about doing. Right?
So Mark, what else do we need the chapel committee to know about, like timing on what kind of information they need to bring forward for the 2021 warrant article and meeting?
So timeline wise, I would recommend that the committee wait until we get the general engineering done, which will be done, like I said, before the end of the Northern Borders grant, with thoughts that the chapel committee has right now. So between now and the end of May, continue to work together with the information that you have right now. Once we get that application submitted and the selectmen have approved it and everything, which will be done by June 1st, then the chapel committee can make a decision at that time whether or not to do the borings. And they could do the borings this late spring or early summer, June or July, whatever. And then we would need to have both plans ready to go by October. We should start talking about whether the chapel committee is going to, what their plan for building the chapel looks like, maintaining it going forward, who's responsible for what, and whether it's going to be an easement or whether they're gonna want the land potentially deeded from the town to them. Get all of those discussions done during the month of October, and then be ready to start talking about it publicly in November and December as part of the 2021 budget process. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Makes sense to me.
so I mean, it's more or less the timeline we had envisioned as a committee or had been discussing. But we do need, I think in terms of the borings, to go ahead also in May. I do think they may have to take the water out of the pond. I'm not sure about that. They said something about that.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
But
we'll
I'll
need to,
double check
we
with
need,
that.
no, Jim and I will need to talk to the boring engineer or whatever.
Yeah.
We need to understand what that requirement is, because I'm not understanding what that
Entails.
requirement is. Yeah,
Okay,
so we'll have to talk to them, because that could be an issue. I didn't realize why are they gonna be in the pond?
they're not gonna be in the pond. I think they just felt that the water was close to the site, that it would make it. I'll double check with them, Mark. That
Yeah,
may be
they need to-
inaccurate about that,
They need to
but-
talk to Jim and I
Right.
about what that requirement is, please.
I think this is Rich, I think the plan, the timeline that you laid out, Mark, makes a lot of sense. I would just remind all that there's another major landowner in that area, and we don't know what that landowner's plans are.
You mean the Waterville?
Tyrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have representation, Rich, on the chapel committee.
Right.
So they're part of, yeah, so hopefully their communication, that'll be their communication conduit, so they'll know what's going on.
Well, so to be clear though, so now we are going to, maybe do the, boring in the fall.
No,
Um,
no,
Have
no,
our plans and how we're maintaining and looking after the chapel, all of that, budget, so on.
I would do the borings in the early.
In June or July.
In June or July, not in the fall.
Oh.
And by the fall, you're gonna need your whole plan done, and you're gonna need all of your maintenance, ongoing maintenance, and whether or
Right.
not you want land, you need all those decisions, so we can start talking about that in October.
Yeah, I got all those notes, Bertie, so I'll make a timeline.
Okay, yeah, I got them too, okay.
Mike, does that cover, did we cover your concerns? Because I know you, did I cover enough of what you're concerned about?
Yeah, I'm big concerned with the borings, so.
No,
you did
Mike,
cover that.
Mike,
Yeah,
okay, you're good. All right,
Okay,
Um,
anything else we can help you with?
well, just one question, I'm just sort of putting it out to the whole group, is say, so we go to town meeting in 2021 and ask them for this particular parcel of land. And at that point, I mean, I'm hoping everybody's gonna vote for it, but, do you see any reason that they might not at this point?
hey,
You can never tell, but I think it's something that people would look forward to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've had very good feedback from many people, but, okay, yeah, I guess that's really all. I think we've got our timeline figured out here. And-
Okay,
okay.
thanks very much for the update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And you've all looked at the plans too, I
No,
assume.
I
Yeah,
will,
it's
yeah,
like a beautiful building.
Stay healthy.
All right, we will try.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, if we continue down our agenda, revenue and expenditures report. Anybody have anything?
I actually do.
I'm surprised.
No, this goes to reading the COVID report that we got from the state.
yes,
Mark, I know that we receive room and meals tax, which is really disproportionate to what we give to the state. Is that under miscellaneous revenues?
no, it's under state revenues, the
State
29,000,
revenues.
29,550 number there.
Okay, so judging on what I saw from the COVID reports and the predictions for what we're hearing about tourism for this summer, it's not going to affect us that dramatically, where some of these other towns are looking at this number and it being just an absolute nightmare for them to try to find other ways to replace it.
That's correct. State revenues are a lot more in other towns than they are
Right,
here.
and the only other thing that we should be concerned about, and I don't know if you had a chance to get the number on this yet, was we were talking about motor vehicle registrations, because we're not getting our money quickly for new registrations, because those can't be done locally, correct?
That's correct, and we're just looking at those now. We don't have the numbers yet. We'll have them for you at the next meeting.
Okay, those were the only concerns I had based on the COVID report on how to anticipate our revenue losses and what our, ultimate downside would be, based on a slowdown.
Well, I think what we're really looking at from going to be mostly affected by whatever the state guidance is for the summer and the impact on the
Right.
hospitality community. And it's not just our rec programs, it's what's going to be allowed in the entire resort this summer. And because that does affect rec, but it also affects potentially every other department. Because water, sewer could be much lower, trash could be impacted, public safety, every department might be impacted if we can't have any of the lodges open in the community this summer. And we just don't know that information right now.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So we're, our worst case scenario, we were down, $230,000 in other than tax revenues. And, that would be significant for.
Is that the rec department and,
That's everything. That's everything.
Everything so you would, the worst case would be that you expect
An impact in every department. Yep,
as worst case.
as worst case. And that was
260,
around 233, I think is what we, but again, I don't think it's gonna be that severe. But we just, at this point in time, when I filled out the Town of Waterville Valley's response to that request for information from the Municipal Association, I worst cased it. If we weren't allowed to do anything in the resort this summer, here's what the potential impact is. And so I think that was the approach that virtually every town took. So the information that you see on that NHMA report is probably worst case across all of the communities. Yeah.
was that about 4 or 5% of our budget?
233. It came out to another 83 cents on the tax rate.
Okay,
Mark, does that,
It does not.
so.
Because remember, on the use of fund balance, it would, we voted specific uses of that fund balance, so we can't change it. If we had just left it, that you would apply the fund balance in the October adjustments, then we could have taken it into account. But we have to assume that we're going to get that revenue because it was actually voted at town meeting. So we can't reduce that from the sale of the ice arena.
okay, and if we don't get the revenue, is the consequence that we're $500,000 short?
No, the consequence is 160,000 short.
Can I clarify something?
Yes,
I think what Mark is saying is because it's fund balance, our fund balance will be short.
Right.
So budget issues do not relate as far as actual cash flow issues go.
Okay,
When we're doing this.
that's right.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mike. That's a good point.
okay, understood. All right, anything else on revenue and expenditure? No? Okay, calendar review.
Next meeting is scheduled for May 13th. And we'll see what the restrictions are. I would assume at this point in time, we'll have to do it this way.
Okay,
The next planning board meeting is the 14th, and same thing. I've talked to Wendy already, and we're planning on doing the May planning board meeting this same way.
okay. All right, community forum, update. I'm not sure there was much that happened during the community forum that we didn't know already, but just so everybody knows, Tim is planning on doing this every Tuesday at 10. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct.
And public meeting, people can join in if they wish to join in.
Yes, there were, I don't know how many, 40, 50
50.
participants? Yeah, 50 participants.
At one point, it was up to 50.
Right. I thought one of the most interesting stories was the lady who had, come up here for the winter season and never went back home. She just stayed, and they're still here, so. And, the other thing that I thought was interesting was, the real estate assessment. From both Frank and Chip, basically saying that things were going very well before this happened, and they may even go better once we're out from under the stay home order. Any other things people want to know from that meeting? Okay, old business, we've discussed the chapel, general engineering project update.
Yep, the contracts are signed. Josh has started work. We've communicated to the other engineers the results and the fact that we've selected HEB for the 3 tasks. Josh is arranging, North Country Council has offered to do training sessions with any towns that are filling out grant applications with Northern Borders. So Josh is arranging a training session for us to talk to the North Country Council. I think it's important to do that because NCC actually has input to the state on the evaluation of the project, so they can provide us with a lot of good insights on how to complete the applications. So we'll be doing that, I hope, next week, and going from there.
Okay, any questions on that?
No.
Okay, the school building use agreement, the school board was looking for clarification on the definition of the rec department space. Now, I did get something from Brooke, clarifying that. Mark, what I would recommend in the agreement is that you put that definition up in that first paragraph where we talk about, the areas
Okay,
that are exclusive to the school and the areas that are exclusive to the rec department.
Yep.
And I'd be as clear as you can. I mean, I started to think about this in terms of when we were kids in school, we used to have to know our bounded bys.
Yep.
For the United States. So, it's basically bounded in the north by the all-purpose room, and on the east by the hallway and the gym, and on the west by the doors leading into the foyer.
Yep.
And worth making note that there is a storeroom there that is shared space. So they're able to go into the storeroom. But basically the other things that Brooke outlined are part of the office of the recreation department.
Yep.
I have one addition to that, Margaret, which for clarification, there's a janitor closet that's within that area, the lobby, that is accessible by the rec department because we use that space to get cleaning supplies or do laundry, and that's where Robbie checks the water. But that is really utilized by Wiley, the janitor.
Okay.
So that might be something to just clarify
as shared space like the storeroom.
Yes.
Okay. But other than that, Mark, if you can make those changes in the agreement, I think we can take that back to the school board. Obviously, since school is not going to be in regular session for the remainder of this year, it's not a big rush item. So if I take it to the school board or we get it to them before their meeting in May, which is the third Thursday, I think that will suffice.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All righty. Let's have an update on well number 3, water system project.
I did not receive anything back from the company that's doing the survey, so I cannot tell you whether or not we've completed that survey. As of right now, he did say that he would get me something by tomorrow, and I will email that to you.
Okay,
As we're still just standing by on the contract for the engineering, because we have not heard back from USDA on our loan grant application that we submitted for the project. That was due by, we were due to receive that decision back at the end of last week, but they have pushed all of their decision-making deadlines because they don't have staff in the office. So I do not know when they are going to get back to us, but we can't sign the contract with Hoyle Tanner to begin the engineering work until we get a decision from rural development on our
Okay.
eligibility. And
okay, and are they then waiting for that information from us about average salary?
no, what will happen is they'll tell us whether or not the project qualifies. And as part of that decision, they'll say if the survey is not complete, they'll say that the median household income is too high, so this would be only through the loan program. But
Okay.
then if the survey information comes back and we do qualify, they'll modify the decision.
Okay.
So we're not necessarily locked into the survey, but we certainly would like to have the survey done as quickly as we can. And that's what we're pushing the company to do.
Okay, great. Any questions on that, anyone? No? Okay. Board concerns and directives? Anything? Oh, we forgot to do the arena.
Yeah, are you okay with, I'll have John and Fred hopefully join us for the May 13th meeting. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, they are, as a company, the Hockey Academy is, in the same boat as any recreation or hospitality type company. They have applied for all the federal grants. They are continuing as a business. They are trying to, figure out what their plan is going to be for the summer first. They usually have a small, pretty sure that they won't be doing that because they're not sure that they can get permission to do the gathering for the larger events by then. So I would assume that they will remain the summer. And they may not even have their dry floor events. They're hopeful that in September, they might be able to have an event in their dry floor. And then they are continuing their planning for the Thanksgiving tournament and the start of their 2021 regular tournament schedule. So they
Yeah,
are.
I think I heard Fred saying the Warriors for Christ will not be coming in.
That's correct, in June.
Yeah. But their spouses may be here in September. They have not canceled yet.
They have not. So he's hopeful that they can continue with that. As far as the P&S, that's what the conversation will be on the 13th.
Okay.
They're evaluating whether or not they can continue with that plan or what they might want to do with the lease instead of that. So they do not have any definitive plans. And when I asked Fred if he could have that together for you by the 13th, he said yes. So.
Okay. Righty, anything else, anyone? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Rich. I move to adjourn.
Mike, I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Margaret, yes?
Rich, yes.
Mike, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.